Greetings! In this video, we are going to take a look at adding charts into Excel worksheets. We will also take a quick look back at adding worksheets to a workbook, inserting data into those worksheets, as well as a quick look at some conditional formatting, which we've also looked at. So let's get started. So here we can see our ProFit Hendo first quarter worksheet that we've been working on in previous videos. And we know that we have got this worksheet set up to give us totals. It will also show the data, which is the number sold and the price per unit. In some cases, you'll want to display the results of your worksheet in a more visual manner. If you are giving a presentation on, let's say, in this case, the sales of first quarter, you may want to be able to show to your audience or to other people how the values fit together and compare to each other, or maybe how each value of a certain item makes up part of the larger whole of the totals, perhaps. This is where charts come in. So charts are a visual way to represent the data. In the case here that we have in the sales sheet for the ProFit Hendo first quarter, we have got basically four types of data. The first one being the video category. That doesn't really change. But we have the other types of data, which are the number sold of each video type, the price per unit, that may change, and then also the total. That's very dynamic depending on how many units were sold. So in this case, we want to be able to add some charts so that we can visually see this data a little better. Before we do that, I want to add a little bit of conditional formatting to this. It's fairly popular to be able to look at a sales sheet like this and know maybe where the trouble spots are, which part of their sales is weaker than other parts. So let's use conditional formatting to do a quick visual representation of the data. I want to know, just without having to look at the actual numbers and really compare and see what's going on, I want to know which one of these totals is below average. And an easy way to do that is with conditional formatting. So I could come here to my conditional formatting control here in the styles area. And on the second choice, top bottom rules, this is where the rules that are applied sort of separate out when things are above a threshold or below. So you can see here the choices are the top 10 items, top 10%, the bottom 10. And then we have two choices at the bottom, which are above average and below average. Basically, what Excel will do is take the average of all of the cells I've just selected, and if any of those individual cells are less than that average, we can apply a rule to that and apply some formatting. So let's do that. Here is below average, and we know when we do that, we get a formatting pane on the right side of our screen for conditional formatting. So here we can see the rules. It's applying to range E3 to E15. It's a top and bottom rule that gives me a below average deciding point. And then the format width, this comes up as a preset. We always see that. I'm going to actually alter this slightly. So my background color, this is background light red with dark red text. I'm going to go to my fill color here, and instead of choosing one of the presets, I'm going to come down here to more colors. Now what this does is it gives me a color choice palette where I can choose really an infinite number of colors. And it shows you the current selection here in this square. This is the light red that it was going to give me. I'm just going to make that lighter. So I'm going to just take this selector circle and drag to the left, and you can see that that is getting lighter as I go. I just want to make it a little bit more of a pale red. So I'll select that. And then for my text, instead of red text on top of this pale red, I just want to use black. So I'm going to set it for automatic. And I'll click done. And we can see the results. So we can see that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of the 13 rows are performing below average. This can be used in all sorts of ways. I could have used the reverse of it, which is which ones are performing above average. Top 10 and bottom 10%, things like that. Let's go ahead and look at adding the first chart here. Now, charts are based on data that we have. And usually at the minimum, you would need two pieces of data. One part of the data would be the way to create the labels for the data. In other words, if I'm going to make some charts, I need to know what these data points are, what they represent, and then I need the data. So in this case, I could see that we have definitely a row of values that represents our video category. I have, a column. I have a column of values that represents the number sold of those videos. And I have a set of cells here that represents the total amount, dollar amount. So to create a couple of different charts, I can definitely use the video category and I can definitely use the total amount sold. Let's put in our first chart, which is probably one of the most common. It is a pie chart. The way to insert a chart is done here on the Insert tab, and it's in the Charts group. And so you'll see the different charts that you can select here. We have column charts, line charts, pie charts. And so when you're in each one, you'll have 1, 2, maybe 3 selections to work with. The desktop version of Excel has a larger number of charts, but for what we're doing here today, this will be fine. So let's insert our first chart. The first thing you have to do is select these 2 data ranges that you want to use to create the chart with. So as I mentioned, we have the names of the video categories. I'm going to select all these names, but only the names. We know when we're working with the data, we only want the data, but not the titles at the top. So I'm going to select down weight training down to stretching. Now I need to select a second set of cells. The way you can select non-adjacent cells is to hold, on a Windows machine you'd hold Control, on a Mac you would hold Command. I'm going to hold that key, and then I'm going to select a second range, and watch what happens when I'm holding, in my case, Command or Control. I can select 2 ranges, separate ranges, not attached to each other. Okay, so now I've got names and totals. I've got 2 things that I can use for data. Let's insert a chart. I'm going to come here to the pie charts, and I'm going to insert a 2D pie. In other words, a flat pie chart. Clicking enter, and we can see results right away. It's basically a circular pie with representing 100%, the whole circle, and then various slices that represent these individual categories. So let's go ahead and style this a bit. The first thing we can do is make it a little larger. If I just drag on one of the corners, as I'm dragging, the shape of the pie gets a little elongated, but it'll reset once you let go. I'm going to close my conditional formatting screen over here. I'm going to make this even a bit larger to come this way, and it should reset and fix my circle. Okay, great. So we see the slices here, and we have what's called a legend down here. So we can see the colors and the names of the categories. Well, this is not quite easy to look at just yet. Let's work on this a little bit. If you notice, when I hover inside here, each part of the chart will highlight. So if I want to work with it and edit it, I just double click it. So the chart title, which is the generic title first, is here. I'm going to double click that. And again, I get a formatting pane that opens up here on the right side. So you can see where I have the chart title and the chart position, the font that's used, the size of the font, the background fill, and the outline. So you can do all the normal font formatting and styling to this title. I'm going to give it a proper title, which is Sales by Title. Or let's actually call it Sales by Video Type. Okay? If I just hit enter, that will change. Now, while I have that selected, I could also come here to my font size and bump that up a bit. I could even make it bold. Okay, so there is a titling for our pie chart. Now we've got this legend down here. Let's work with that a little bit. I'm going to single click that, and that will bring up my legend area here. So now you can see that legend and chart title is right next to it. Legend is here and open and selected. The default position is at the bottom. I'm going to move it to the right. And notice what happens. It actually became more of a stack of values. And then what I'm going to do here is bump the font size up a bit. Let's try 12 and see how that fits. Great. Okay, that's looking better. So this is now a little bit easier to see. We have a lot of different types in here, so the colors in some cases can sometimes be a little difficult. Let's go to the next thing we can do here, which is if I'm looking at all these slices of the pie, all of these slices together would equal 100%, right? You slice up a pie and the various pieces are percentage parts of 100%, but the pie itself is 100%. But I want to know visually what the percentage is for each one of these color categories. The way to do that is select the whole pie. And now we're in the area here on the format for the chart called Series 1, which is basically saying the data. And so I'm not going to worry about the series, the name at this point. But down here, you'll notice at the bottom, there is data labels. In other words, these are unlabeled right now. I'm going to turn this on, and you'll notice it expands, and the default is value. So look what's happened. The data that I gave the Excel to make the chart from, it is now displaying inside of each slice of this pie. That's more useful now. However, I want to see them just simply in relation to each other. I want to know what these slices of the pie represent in a percentage way. Well, all I have to do is select percentage. Now you can select multiple things at the same time. I'm going to unselect value. And now we've got going around the outer ring the percentage of each video type for its sales. Okay, let's format this a bit so we can make this a little easier to see. Notice down here, label position. It's in best fit right now. I'm going to move that to the center. So these come to the center. And then I'm going to run the font size up, and we'll see what we can do here to make it work. Sometimes you will actually get some that don't fit inside because it is a tiny slice of the pie. Let's move this to best fit again. See what that does. Okay, what best fit does here now is if it is small, the slice of the pie is small and won't fit the font size that I want to use, it will move it outside of the pie chart. Let's try to bump this one more click and see what happens at 14. Okay, that worked. Now you've got some color issues here. You can also do some coloring with the fonts here, change things. For instance, I could change the font for the, I could change these to white so you can see them, but then the ones that are outside are a little hard to see. So depending on your data and your pie chart, you can play with this and make it easy to see, as easy to see as possible. Okay, great. So that right there is a useful chart for people to look at. Let's insert another chart, another very popular type. I'm going to actually take this chart just to make a little more room on our screen, and I'm going to size it down just a touch for now. We may move this around again. I'm going to pull it up here. Okay, I want to enter another type of chart. Now, we have already looked at the video type and the total. Let's now look at the video type and the number sold. Now, when I look at this right now, sure, I can see that 304 is larger than 48. Some of these are similar. I want to see them all together in an easier way to make a visual comparison with them. So let's select our data. In this case, last time we selected names, and then I had to use the Control or Command key to select another range that's not adjacent. In this case, that's not what we need to do. We can just simply drag and capture both data sets right here. Okay, so I have the data selected now. I'm going to come again to my Insert tab. And in this case, I'm going to insert a column chart. Now, when I pull down the choices for this, you have kind of a standard clustered column. So I'm going to click this now. And here we have the result. Let's move it over here next to our other chart. And I'm going to drag down so we can get a little more size out of it. If you notice here, what we have for our legend across the bottom is the video type. If you notice here what we have for our bars, that's the data, number sold. So we also will get a scale on the left side here, which shows us our range, the highest line that could be met here. And Excel created that based on what our data was. Going up to 0 to 450, we can see that the highest performer here comes in just under 400, and that is the step videos. But see, at this point, you can see very clearly which types of videos are doing better as far as numbers sold compared to one another. So let's work on this as we did with the pie chart. I'm going to come here and double click the title, which opens up my formatting pane, and I have chart title here. And now this is going to be videos by number sold. Okay? And I still have that selected. I'm going to run this up to 16 and make it bold. And I can even move it around a bit in here if I want to. I'll leave it generally centered. Okay. Down here, you will notice that there is a key for these data values. In this case, I don't actually need to see this key. We know that that is the number sold. So I can just remove that by hitting delete. Okay. So we've just simplified that a little bit. So now we have actually entered two very common types of charts. I can make a little room back for our pie chart if I bring this down, and I will bring the pie chart up. Sometimes pie charts are, the easiest and most preferred one to use because they're just easy to tell what's going on. Okay. Now, the thing to remember, just like the calculation fields with our formulas in here, these are responsive to data, and so are the charts that we enter. So if we were to have another worksheet that was perhaps the second quarter, and we did that in a previous video where we added another worksheet, we want the charts to also come across, but we want to reuse these charts over and over again with different data. So the way to do that is to get your worksheet set up in almost its final state. In other words, we've now done formatting, we've done formulas and functions to work with our data, and now we've added charts. So what I want to do now is add another worksheet so that we can look at the second quarter. So before I do that, I'm just going to go ahead and clear out my notes down here and get this worksheet ready to copy. How do we copy this worksheet? Very easily. We come down to our tabs down here for our worksheets. I'm going to right click there and I'm going to click duplicate. So now we've duplicated it, and what it does is it puts the duplicate copy first. It's got a parentheses of 2. We know we can move these around easy just by dragging, and we know we can rename by double clicking, which I'll do now. And we saw this in the last video. I'm just going to get rid of the 2, and I'm going to change this to second quarter sales and hit enter. And that one has a light green tab color. I will add the light blue tab color to the second one. Okay, so now I'm switching back and forth between the two. There's no difference, they're identical. We want to make sure that we can identify these visually right off the bat. So first quarter sales is what we have here, but let's go ahead and come to our second quarter and adjust this so that it properly says second quarter, okay? All right, so now if I switch back and forth, you can see that they're different. However, the charts and everything are exactly the same because it's the exact same data. So what we do here now, we know that this is our data in here. I'm going to select all of the data here. We saw this in the last video, and I am going to, as long as I know that I have my second quarter sheet selected, which I do, I'm going to actually right click here and choose clear contents. Okay, look what's happened. We see that everything's empty, including my charts now. If we click in cells, we can see that the formulas are still there, and we can tell that these charts are actually just waiting for data. So let's get some data. I have a text file open here that is new data for second quarter. If I highlight this and copy, come back to my worksheet and choose the upper left corner of where the data would sit and paste. I paste in data, and it has now changed. Just to confirm that, let's look at first quarter sales quickly, and we can look at the sales total, which is 69,865 with a count of videos of 2,476. Second quarter is 83,993 with a count of videos of 2,704. If I cycle back and forth, we can see that our pie chart and our column charts change a little. It's not too dramatic. Everything seems to have gone up. And in addition, we can see our conditional formatting. If we look at the totals column, that has changed. We now have, in the second quarter, we have less videos performing under the average. So that's a good thing. So we've covered some important topics here, which is to know another form of conditional formatting that's useful. We know how to insert worksheets, how to rename them, how to move them around, and how to color their tabs. And then we looked at inserting two very popular types of charts, the pie chart and the column chart. You need two sets of data. One functions as the legend, or labels you could call it, but one functions as the legend and the other functions as the data. And that's what makes up slices of the pie or the height of columns in our column chart.